and get started. So thank you all so much for making time in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the week to join us. Summer has been summering because a lot of people are busy with other things and have not been able to make it to a lot of activities or sign up for a lot of the things. So thank you so much for investing in yourself and for having diversity in dentistry be a part of this process. Um, as we all know, the process of application is in full swing. We have talked about applying and getting your personal statement and getting your application. But all of that is is one part. A big part is how you present yourself during the interview. Some people say the interview is more important than the application, but a big part is presenting yourself in the interview. Today, I have someone that I respect, someone that, as I just shared with her, I have been stalking her on Facebook for a while. Dr. Suzie Bergman. She says we should call her Dr. Suzie. I insist we all call her Dr. Bergman. But she is like very passionate about improving dental outcomes for her patients, especially concerning your temporal. She's very big. She's a fellow of the TMJ Foundation. She serves as the selection chair. She's an advisor, an honorary faculty program member, and she just got a new job as well. Dr. Dr. Bergman is also starting as an adjunct professor at Pacific Northwest University. But I believe she's really amazing to talk to us about interviews, especially after her TED Talk. But she has spent a very long time talking to people about how you present yourself and especially what to look for in the dental field and how to make yourself stand out. So I'm really, really excited to hear what she has to share with us about the interview process. So thank you for spending some time with us. Did I miss any part? Because it's a lot. I tried to summarize it.
No, you didn't miss anything. Thank you so much, Luma. That was a very nice introduction. And welcome, everybody. I am so happy to be able to spend some time with you today. And I hope that you're going to find this very helpful. We're going to hopefully have a nice discussion. I don't really like to do all the talking, so I'm going to ask any of you who are comfortable to turn on your video if that's something that you're comfortable with, and then we are going to talk a little bit about things that I think are important for you to learn, and then I really want you all to make sure that you ask your questions because you're the ones going for this interview. So you need to feel confident, and that's what we're here for at Diversity in Dentistry, to help you feel as confident as possible. So I'll start. Can you see my screen?
Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Hi, Brianna.
Hi, Dr. Suzie.
All right. So Brianna is my mentee, so I'm happy to see her here. And do any of you all know each other?
We kind of know each other. We have a WhatsApp group where we do communicate, and some of them study together.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so for some reason, I am not seeing my screen. So let me see what I did here. There we go. Okay, so we're going to start just kind of talking about, like Luma told you, the fact that your dental school interview is a very, very big part of your application process. So that's really good news for people who are extroverts and who like to talk and who are comfortable with people that they've never met before. But sometimes if you're an introvert, or if you're just a person who takes a little bit of time to warm up to someone new, it can be a little bit intimidating to have this conversation with someone that is new to you, and you feel like they have a lot of they have a lot of control over what happens next in your career, right? So we want to kind of get rid of any of the like misconceptions or the things that might be making you nervous. You know, a little bit of nerves is actually not a bad thing when you're doing any type of public speaking or speaking to someone in an interview process, because it helps you to be on your best. And so don't think of being nervous necessarily as something that you have to, like, that you say like, oh, I have to get rid of my nerves, because you are going to have a little bit of that, but we don't want it to be consuming for you. Okay, so let me, I don't know, I am having a little trouble with the view here. Let's see. I'm only seeing like a little icon with my screen.
So it's showing the first slide.
I'm in speaker view, but I have, what I really see is just you, Luma.
Okay. Can you send it to me?
I'm going to stop sharing and try to start sharing again.
Okay.
And then if that doesn't work, I'll send it to you. Okay, here we go. Now, hopefully I see what you guys are seeing. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the things that you need to do to be prepared, because the more prepared you are, the more confident you will feel. And one of the most important things when you're preparing for your interview is to think about the way that you're going to present yourself as a communicator, right? Because dentistry is a profession where we have to communicate. We have to be able to talk to our patients, talk to our staff, talk to sometimes the caregivers or the parents. And so the admissions committees are really looking for students who articulate themselves clearly. They are good listeners. They make eye contact. They show that they understand the importance of being a good communicator. So that's one of the things you're going to want to think about as you're preparing. And then you also want to think about how the interviewer is looking at you as an applicant. Are you an applicant who says, I want to go to dental school, but you don't really know anything about dentistry yet? Or are you someone who is actually kind of trying to figure this whole profession out? So if you have volunteered in a dental setting, or if you've shadowed your dentist or a member of their clinical staff, that's a really great thing that helps prepare you for the application process and the interview in particular. So if you haven't done this, I would highly recommend that you find a place where maybe you could just go if there's going to be like a dental event, or if you have, you know, a dentist that you see regularly, if you just go in and ask, I'm interested in shadowing the doctor or someone, the hygienist, one of the assistants, someone in the clinical part of the office. If you would let me shadow for an afternoon or a day or a week, you know, every office is different, but it's really good for you to have that experience so that you have something to talk about at your interview. And then also they're going to want to make sure that you have been thinking about how your undergraduate education could prepare you to become a dentist. So it's really interesting that sometimes people think, oh, if I want to go to dental school, I have to take all of the science classes. I have to do all of these things as an undergrad student. But surprisingly, some people in my class in dental school who had a really well-rounded experience, they were something like an art major who had to do a lot with their hands and had good hand-eye coordination and manual dexterity, or someone who had training in business, because a lot of us get out of dental school and we're all of a sudden we're like, oh, we didn't learn anything about business while we were dental students. So whatever you've been studying, you want to be able to tell the interviewer why you chose that field of study and how you think that's going to help you with your dental training. And then the next thing that they're going to ask you about that you need to be prepared to give an answer for is, did you win any awards or participate in any extracurricular activities that you would like to highlight? And they want to know not only about your academic achievements, but whatever it is that you're passionate about. So if you think, oh, well, I'm not going to tell them that I was a soccer player or that I ran track and field. No, they want to know that. They want to know what makes you tick, what you get excited about, and how much effort you put into something that you enjoy. Okay, so have those ideas. I was just telling my assistant, the one thing I remember from my dental school interview, believe it or not, was the question that was asked about a hobby. They asked me, have you done anything as a hobby that you think would help you to have good manual dexterity and hand-eye coordination? And I said, yes, I play the piano. I've taken piano lessons for the past 10 years. And then they asked me all about piano for about 5 minutes, which really surprised me because I wasn't expecting that. So they wanted to know what type of music I like to play and what my favorite piece that I played, for fun was. So that is something that you want to be able to talk about. And when you do something that you enjoy, that enthusiasm comes across to the interviewers. So be prepared to talk about things that are not all about dentistry. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about a little bit is the fact that there are different types of interviews. Okay. It's really important for you to find out when you go to a dental school, which type of interview you're going to encounter. And so the three main types that you can encounter in a dental school interview are traditional, panel, and multiple mini interviews. So let's just talk a little bit about what each one of these are. A traditional interview is just when you're sitting across from one other person and you're just having a conversation with that person. It's a lot like a job interview. So if you've ever been to a job interview where you go and meet the manager or the doctor, if you worked in a dental office, you just sit across from that one person and they're going to be really looking at you and assessing your interpersonal skills and seeing how you are with talking to that person one-on-one. Another really common type of interview, which is the kind that I had when I applied for dental school, is a panel interview. So this is really similar to the traditional interview, but there are multiple people there. And they each are kind of going to have a different thing that they're focusing on. So one of them might be trying to figure out, your communication skills, while another one is watching to see if you feel, enthusiastic and well rounded and are able to talk about different things without knowing what the questions are going to be ahead of time. Okay. And then the next type is the multiple mini interview. And this is one where you may sit at in one table and talk with one interviewer, and then you go to another table and talk to another interviewer, and it may be tables or it may be different parts of the dental school where like someone's talking to you in the clinic setting, someone's talking to you in the office setting, and with those kind of interviews, they're going to have a different scenario or a different question for you to answer. So I want to just kind of give you a few examples about the type of questions that you would be asked in each of these different settings. So the traditional interview, you're going to get a question that might be like, tell me why you wanted to become a dentist. Okay. And you're kind of, prepared to answer that question because you know that they want your why. There's a really good TED talk that's I think it's called Start with the Why by Simon Sinek, and that's a good one to watch if you're interested. But your why is basically your passion. Okay. It's the thing that just gets you excited. Like I have a friend who was my dental assistant for a while, and when I asked her why she wanted to be involved in dentistry, she said, I just love teeth. And she was so enthusiastic about it. She was like, I love to look at somebody who's smiling. I love to help somebody who's in pain. I love to, do things that make people feel more confident. So that's your why. You need to figure out the answer to that question. What is your why? Then a panel interview, a question might be something like, tell me how you have prepared yourself for the academic challenges or rigors of being a dental student. Okay, so they want, with a question like that, they're actually asking you, do you realize that this is going to be hard? Are you prepared to put in the hard work? And if so, how have you prepared yourself? All right. And then a multiple mini interview, they're going to give you questions that are more like scenarios. Okay. So they might ask you something like, you notice that your dental assistant is seeing a patient and not wearing gloves. What are you going to do in this situation? All right. So knowing what type of interview you're in for is going to really help you. There are lots of places online where you can actually look up sample interview questions. And Luma let me know that you're also going to get, the mentees are going to get an opportunity to do some mock interviews. So that's going to be really helpful for you. I have some tips here for what you should do to get ready for your interview all the way through the actual event and the follow-up. So let's look at these a little bit. Okay, actually, before we start this, do we have some questions, Luma? I noticed there's some things in the chat.
No, not right now. It's just me putting some resources in the chat. But if you do have any questions while we're going over this, please put them in the chat.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So the first thing that I want you to do is really, really be prepared for your interview. The more prepared you are, the more confident you will be, and the more you'll just shine during your interview. Okay. So when you have your invitation from a specific school, it's time for you to research the school's specific interview process. Find out what type of interview you're going to have. Okay. Find out as much as you can about the school in general. That way, if they ask you a question like, why did you want to come to our dental school? You'll have an answer for them. But do as much as you can to become familiar with that school's philosophy, what their focus is. Maybe they're a research heavy dental school, or maybe they are really into like helping underserved population. So make sure you know before you go. And then practice, practice, practice. Okay. And when I tell you that I want you to practice, I'm not saying just sit and read a bunch of questions, don't just like look at them and think, okay, what would I say? I want you to practice answering them out loud in front of a mirror, in front of your friends, with your boyfriend, with your best friend, whoever will practice with you, because you need to be able to rattle off that answer with confidence without having to stop and think too much about it and without putting a bunch of filler words in. So try not to use the we all do it sometimes. I mean, some people are fortunate that it's not as much of a habit for them as it is for other people, but try to avoid filler words. Try to avoid those things that you just put in because there's a pause. It's okay to have a moment of silence while you're thinking. And when you're ready to answer your question, when you're ready to answer it with all of your words flowing together as much as possible. The next thing that's really important is to dress professionally. And even if you're having a video interview, you need to dress professionally. All right. You need to have a nice jacket and slacks, or a suit, or maybe a professional dress. For women, we don't want anything low cut. We don't want anything too revealing. It should be business attire. It needs to be clean. It needs to not have dog hair all over it or cat hair, and needs to be pressed. So I think this is funny, but my kids who are college age would have absolutely no idea what that means to press something, because they don't even know how to pick up an iron. So if your clothes are wrinkled, maybe you have a steamer, or you have some way that you get the wrinkles out of your clothes, but don't wear something to the interview that looks like you slept in it all night. Okay. And then be confident. So make eye contact, have good posture, don't slouch, don't have your hand on your face, don't fidget, don't pick your nails, sit across from that person with as professional and affect as you can muster, and show enthusiasm. So you want to demonstrate to the person interviewing you, or the group of people interviewing you, that you really want to go to this school. This is the school that you would love to go to for your dental education. You're enthusiastic. You're actually very interested. It's okay for you to ask a question too. So if you sit down at someone's desk and you notice that they have a picture of their vacation or their kids or something like that, you can ask, oh, where was that vacation? Have some genuine conversation with the person that you're speaking with. And then once you're done with your interview, it's very good etiquette to follow up with a short thank you email, or even better, a handwritten thank you note. And we're talking note, okay? We don't want you to write a big long letter. We don't want you to sound desperate and pleading and say, I have to go here. I really hope you choose me. If I don't get to go to this dental school, my life will be over. Nothing like that. You just want to say, I appreciate you taking the time to interview me. It was wonderful to see the campus, to see the operatories, to see the clinic. I look forward to hearing from you. Something short and sweet. Okay. Now, I have something very practical for you. It's called the 3 Bs. Okay, so the first B is be calm. And when you come in and you're nervous, it's easy for you to forget what you want to say, right? So before you go in, I want you to just take a few breaths to help you clear your mind, get the cobwebs out of your head, to be focused, to be not shaky, and a good thing that you can do is practice taking some breaths, either like a even inhale and exhale, or a box breath. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with box breathing, but if we have time at the end of this, I'm going to practice box breathing with you, okay? Because that's a really good way to downregulate your nervous system so that you're not in fight or flight, okay? Now, the second B is be on time. And be on time in my world means be 5 minutes early. Okay, it's much better to be 5 minutes early than to be 5 minutes late. So, especially if you've never been to this place before, give yourself a little bit of extra time to account for traffic that you might not have expected, or in case you get lost. All right. And then the third B is be you. Okay, just be yourself. You don't want to pretend that you're someone you're not, because the interviewers and the admissions committee are looking for genuine people. So don't come in with a fake accent or, using big words that aren't the normal type of words that you would use in a conversation. Just be who you are, be proud of the person that you are, and you will shine. Okay. So we're going to just look at a few common interview questions. The first one we already talked about. Why do you want to become a dentist? So tell them, if this is something that you've been interested in, maybe ever since you were a little kid and you sat in the dental chair, you were just really fascinated with all the instruments and the equipment. Maybe your reason for becoming a dentist is because you have a passion for healing people. You want to be involved in direct patient care. Maybe you want to go into dentistry so that you can go into public health. So just be sure that you have an answer to that question. Another common question would be, how have you prepared yourself? And we talked about this one already too. How have you prepared yourself for the next 4 years that will be very challenging? And you want to let them know, I've already thought about how I'm going to get through dental school. Like you could say, I've developed good study skills. I'm working to have time management. And this says a structured DAIL plan. It should say daily. Sorry, I missed that typo. But you want to let them know that you've been thinking about how you can be successful as a dental student. And then another question that you might hear is, what are your long-term career goals? So this is where you could say like, oh, well, I'm hoping that I get into a pediatric residency after dental school, or oral surgery residency. Like my long-term goals are, I want to specialize in X, Y, or Z, or my long-term goals are, I want to work in a DSO or in a private practice. Like, let them know that you understand all of the things that are available to you after you get done with dental school, and that you've been thinking about it. Okay, is everyone doing okay so far? Okay, now a question that you might have is, how can I go into this interview making myself look as good as possible, but not sound like I'm bragging, right? You don't want to go in and say, I have done this and this and this, and I've worked harder than anyone I know, and I have all these awards. You want to come in with some humility, okay? And so a few ways to do this are, the first one is to express gratitude. Come in and say, I really appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate the support that I've been given by my family, by my mentors, my support system. And then when you say it that way, it makes your achievements seem like they're collaborative. It doesn't make it sound like you say, I am the person who got myself to this place all by myself, and that's why I should be a dental student here. Okay. Now, another thing that you do when you're talking about yourself is keep it brief. So avoid making your self-promotion sound like an infomercial. You can say some things that you've accomplished, and you can be, you can feel good about those things, but you don't want to go on and on and on. And if you notice the other person's nonverbal cues, like they're starting to look off to the side or look down or look at their watch, that will help you to realize that you need to wrap up talking about yourself. Okay. And then the last one is use humor. So anytime you use a little bit of humor when you're talking about yourself, it makes what you're saying more genuine. And I don't mean like self-deprecating humor. I don't want you to say things that downplay your accomplishments. I do want you to put your best foot forward. But if you just lighten the mood a little bit, everybody likes a person who can make them laugh. All right. Now, like I said, you also want to find out some things about the school. So balance talking about yourself with these other things. So you can give some unique personal information about yourself. Like you could say, I let's see, what would be a good example? Some unique personal information about yourself. Like you could say, I had to get a tooth pulled when I was little because I got in an accident on the playground, and my dentist made that experience really as simple as pleasant as possible for me. Okay. Just something about yourself that is not just like all the pat answers. And then you could say, something that you would like to know about the school. Like you could say, what type of student is this school looking for? Does this dental school have a strong, diverse dental student population and community? Are you looking for students who are interested in continuing in residency programs, or students who want to be general dentists and who maybe want to go out into FQHCs and treat underserved communities? Those kind of questions about what the school's philosophy is and what the school is trying to give to the community. So like the dental school that I'm going to be an adjunct professor for, they're looking for dental students who want to go into underserved populations, and they are looking for students who want to be primary care dentists, which means that they understand that oral health is also whole person health. So they have a very interprofessional approach to their dental school. You can then explain why this opportunity is important for you. You could say, maybe my family didn't have access to dental care when I was growing up, and I want to really be able to provide that access in places where people really need it. That's just an example. You can also ask, what type of extracurricular activities are there at this school? Like, am I still going to be able to play soccer? Am I still going to be able to, do the things that I enjoy? Or is this something that I'm going to have to put on hold for the next 4 years? All right, and then let's just talk a little bit about a virtual interview, because that is still a possibility. Virtual interviews are not as common now as they were during the really tough pandemic years. I personally would not be a fan of having to do a virtual interview because it's a little bit harder to make the impression that you want to make when you're sitting on the other side of the screen, right? But if you have to do it, then some things that you want to be aware of are how you are presenting yourself in the setting where you are. So you want to avoid a cluttered background. If you're sitting with like your desk behind you, tidy your desk up a little bit, maybe put some nice artwork or something behind you. Make sure that you are still dressed professionally, even though they can only see this part of you. So we all did that during the pandemic, where we like put on a nice shirt and that's all they have to see. But just make sure that you are dressing professionally. And then choose a quiet, comfortable space. Don't be somewhere where you're going to have people coming in and out and the doors slamming and the dog barking and things like that. Make sure that you're, where you can give your undivided attention to this short period of time where you're going to be interviewing. And then be really aware of your body language. So still sit up nice and straight. Don't slump. Don't have your hand on your face. Don't be looking in a different direction. Make eye contact as well as you can, right? Luma's giving us an example here. Don't do this. And before you start, check your connection and your sound. You don't want to start the interview and then find out that you have problems with your server, or that there's a storm in the area and your connectivity isn't good, or your speaker isn't working properly. So check all of that ahead of time. And then this one I have to say sorry about. It says have proper lighting. I don't personally have the best lighting right now, but the reason for that is that it's 103 degrees here and we've had all the lights off in our office to try to keep the temperatures down because I work in a really old building. So this is not really ideal lighting that I have right now, but hopefully you guys can give me a pass because we're not used to this hot weather in the Pacific Northwest. Okay, so that's it for my tips for you. I've included my email address. I want you all to feel free to reach out to me if you have some questions. And you can feel free to do as Luma did and stalk me on social media. I love connecting with people. I'm a people person. So don't think that if you don't get your question answered right now, right here, that you've lost the opportunity, because I'm happy to take your questions. But since we have time right now, if any of you are brave souls who want to turn on your video or who want to just ask a question, this is a good time to do it.
So I do have thank you so much, Dr. Suzie. A lot of us have like an idea of what the interview is, but to have it broken down to what the components are, it's very helpful. That way we are able to have some expectations. So we do have a few questions in the chat.
Perfect.
So for like MMI interviews, for the multiple mini interviews, it seems like such a new concept. So does every school have it? Like how common is it to have the MMI stations? And like how many stations should you be expecting to go through?
Honestly, that's a good question that I don't know the answer to. So I think I would probably like, look at the school that you're interviewing with and find out if that's how they're doing it. I
Mhm.
think that the MMI, it has the benefit of asking some more practical questions, so they're going to ask questions like, what would you do in this scenario? Okay, they're going to ask you things where they're like, you're not a dentist yet, but put on your dentist hat and
Yes.
imagine for a minute, if this happened, how would you um what would you do in this situation? So like another example of an MMI type of question would be, let's say you overheard a staff member in your office talking disparagingly about a patient. What would you do in that situation? Okay. Or let's say a patient came in and they were upset about their dental bill. What would you expect to have happen? Like, would you want your staff to dispute the bill with the patient, or would you want them to try to help figure out a solution? So those kind of questions, um, I actually just went online and I looked up sample interview questions for dental school, and I found quite a few for that type of interview. So I think that's something you have to find out based on where you've applied.
So we will try to include some of that next week, but if you all just bear with us, it's the summer. A lot of our mentors are taking a break, but we will try to have some of those next week. That way you'll practice it. My favorite D1, I see Isaiah on here. He can share if he got a lot of MMI questions or interviews as well. But then I know when I applied, every school I applied to had an MMI section. Like it is combined. There was like the traditional way you sat down with someone. There was the group where there was that group of people, and it can be anything, because the question I remember, the way you remember about your piano and guitar, the question I remember, they asked me, how do you describe the color yellow to a blind person?
Oh, that's a really good
And
question.
I was like, to a
And you
blind
were
person,
prepared
it
for
looks like
that,
an
huh?
yes. Like, how do
Yeah,
you
sometimes they just want to see how you react under pressure.
pressure?
Uh-huh.
Because the MMI it seems more of like a morality assessment to see what you consider as morally correct, like how you approach, like it's more of like your person interaction. So as Dr. Susie shared, if you could go online, you could see some questions, or if you could make some time for us next week, we could ask you some questions. And then from Benitra, is the location a legitimate reason to give the school as why you want to go there? Could I say I want to go here because I want to stay in Dallas?
Oh, sure. I think so. You could say, all my family is here in the area, and I have an elderly parent that I'm a caregiver for. And so I would really like to stay close to home so I could continue to care for my aging parent. Or you could say, that I love this part of the country, and I would really enjoy being a student here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. I think that's when it comes down to being genuine. You tell them the reason, like I like your extracurricular offerings. Whatever your reason is, but don't just say like my favorite sports team. I have to be here so I can go to my favorite sports team's games, or something like that. But be honest and share what makes this place attractive to you. I also saw a question, oh, maybe we're coming to that one next,
Yes,
about hair.
natural hair.
I say absolutely. You see me, I have crazy curls. Um, I love Dr. Layla's hair. I I think I think in 2024 we should take like Viola Davis's cue and wear your natural hair and be proud of it. And you know, that's who you are. Be you. That's my personal opinion. Some people might disagree with me on that one, but I just think I read something a few days ago about um feeling the need to straighten your hair. And, you know, I understand that. And I used to straighten my hair sometimes too, but you're blessed with beautiful natural curls or coils or whatever that is. Embrace it.
Does anyone have anything to add to that? Be because for me, one of the things they say is be you. If you're going to wear your natural hair, wear it out. Um, which I think like the controversy of what is professional or not for Afro hair. It's something else, but be you.
Hey, I
Hey.
know, so I've been driving and I just got in and everything. Oh, and I came on the perfect time on hair. Of course, mine
Yes.
came back, right? Here it comes back here. And I did reply. I had my kids reply as I was driving, just picked them up from the airport. Dr. Suzie, first of all, thank you so much. Those tips were so great. And, you know, sometimes we got to get back to the basics. I think a lot of the mentees, like, I just want to know the questions. What questions are they going to ask me so I can just practice? You've got to have the foundation down, get that, get your confidence set, learn the practice skills, and then those questions will come and you'll be able to respond after you've done the practice. So thank you for giving your time after a long day.
My pleasure.
It was great. But yeah, on the hair, you know, of course, you know, you just never know who's going to be on your panel. Yes, they should have gone through all sorts of cultural competencies and sensitivities, and we would hope that the panelists would not have any bias against, you know, naturally curly hair, but unfortunately that's probably going to happen somewhere. But I don't feel that they are going to be on the admissions committee. And for any reason, if you feel like that is an issue, that's something that needs to get reported, or that's not the school you want to
You
go
want to
to.
go to?
Exactly. I agree
Right.
with that. I definitely agree with that because I think that like yes, when you're in the clinic, you got to put your hair back, have it
Yeah.
up, you know,
Mhm.
like that's in a clinical setting. But when you're coming for an interview, you're presenting as your true authentic self. So if
Mhm.
you normally straighten your hair and put your hair up, then do
Do
that,
that.
you know?
Right, right. And
Yeah.
that's what I was saying. Like, whatever makes you feel confident, do that.
Mhm.
If it's a humid day and your curls are going crazy, then you might want to have, you know, a hair tie available and some bobby pins. And you might have to put that bad boy up right before the interview, which has happened to me many a times before. You know, I had planned to wear my hair down during a presentation I was going to give. It just was not having, you know, it has a mind of its own at times, right? So what makes you feel confident? That's the most important thing. So
And
whichever way.
and then another tip about building confidence for because personally it was a while since I did an interview. So what
Mhm.
I did was I applied for every job, even jobs I did not want. That way I got to practice talking about myself and talking
Oh
about
yeah, I remember you
achievements.
saying that.
So
Yeah.
if you have the chance, if it has been a while, if you feel like because talking about yourself is not something that is comfortable for a lot of us. So if you think that you need that practice, there's a lot of recruiters on LinkedIn. Put yourself out there, like looking for a job, that people will call you and give you the chance to talk about yourself. That way, when you are at your interview and when it really matters, you've had a lot of practice.
That's great.
Because sometimes your friends you cannot be serious with, or you cannot be serious with your family to the point that you practice in a way that is meaningful. So in this time when you have time, because a lot of us are in the waiting game right now, waiting to get that interview call. So you could do that, apply
Mhm.
for jobs and have that chance to interview. That way,
Mhm.
if you're uncomfortable, you know where you are lacking in talking about yourself.
And you know what could come up from that? You're so good, right? That the interviewer, you're like, wow, you're really good at this. you might say, yeah, this is really important to me. I love your dental school. I want to do everything I could to bring put my best foot forward. So I did some mock interviews with some jobs, and that would make them laugh. And then see
Right,
how
exactly.
I shared
Yeah.
that. I shared
Yeah.
because
Did
one of
you?
my
Oh, good.
one of my interviews was the day after my McDonald's interview. And I was like, there has been practice with this. I just interviewed at McDonald's and we went over this. But
And
and then another tip that Dr. Lila shared with me, have your thank you cards in your purse when you go for your
Oh, yeah.
interview. That way you remember the person you talk to, you have it with you, like turn around, write down that name, write that thank you card, and turn around and turn it in. That
that's
way,
a really good tip.
Yeah.
you're not trying to remember who you talk to. You're not trying to remember. You have it there. You write it
Mhm.
and you turn around and turn it in.
Yeah.
And
That's
I think the handwritten note is so much more appreciated. It's more personal
Mhm.
in this digital age that we live in. We get emails all the time. You never see somebody print out an email and hang it up, but if you get a card, I have tons of them on my desk over there. A card that really showed some appreciation and showed some of your personality as well, and the way that your handwriting is, or what you chose on the card. It's just a nice touch. And then also what you just said, Luma, about sharing that and bringing that humor in, that's a great way to do it, because you are making the point that this was really important to you. So important to you that you actually even went and applied at McDonald's, right? You
Mhm.
had a little laugh out of them, and that makes them see that you are a good communicator.
want to get those hand skills flipping burgers.
Yes.
Luma, you should talk about, you know, what happened with the flight and everything. Remember on one of the schools, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but you had to reach out to, do you remember how that happened?
Where the flight got changed and I could not make it
The
to
flight,
my
right? Yeah,
yes, the flight got changed and I could not make it to my interview and I had to reschedule. But it was not that terrifying because I had been in touch with them, which is one thing too. When you
that's
get
what.
that
But that's
interview,
the point I want. Yeah, that's the
yeah,
point I wanted
when
to
you
make.
get that interview invite, a majority of the time it's not coming from the person that is interviewing you, but it's coming from somebody that has access. Because
Mhm.
your interview starts from the moment you walk in, from like the secretaries and people like that. If you build a rapport with them, like if you walk in and you already know, oh, this is Andrea that I have emailed back and forth, it sets the tone for like a calm interview. But flying to El Paso, Texas is not the easiest. It is very unreliable. Sometimes it's better to just drive, even though it's 10 hours away from everything in Texas. But the flight got canceled and it was very convenient since I had already kept in touch with them to be like, this is what is happening. And I know some other person, um, one of our mentees, she's also in my class, I forget her name, but she got sick. Like she actually came to the interview and she got sick on the day of her interview. And they put
Mhm.
her on the very next day and she just
Mhm.
did her interview by herself. But that is because she kept in touch and she
Yeah,
updated
keep in touch
everyone
with
as she went
advocacy.
along. Your
Yeah.
interview starts from the moment you get that email. So do keep in touch and make sure everyone knows what is going on. Dr. Suzie, some people are leaving, so I'm going to ask you to please choose a number between 1 and 50. Any number.
Okay.
What number?
What number?
Any number between 1 and 50.
5.
5. Okay, 5 is the code for attendance today.
5 is always my number because my email address used to be 5 Bergies. Because my husband's nickname was Bergie, so I have 3 kids. I called us the 5 Bergies.
Nice. Nice.
That's great. Well,
Nice.
this is great. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, we'll get this recording downloaded and